And then we have Dustyn Dubuque.
Dustyn, you can go ahead.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm sorry, I had a little issue with the phone. I don't think my phone wants me to do video. So again, my name is Dustyn Dubuque, and we'll do this without seeing me, but that's okay. I think I'm in a few of the pictures. In front of me, I am the captain of the Menominee Blue Caps. The Menominee Blue Caps are actually located in northwestern Wisconsin, so we're pretty far up north. I am the executive director of Downtown Menominee, which is a nonprofit that focuses on the revitalization of our downtown. And I'm also the board president currently of the Dunn County Historical Society, kind of the historical society that runs our team. And I'm here to talk about the Blue Caps and the great collaboration we have with our museum here in town. Menominee is about a town of 16,000 people, and our historical society for County Historical Society is very nice. So I just wanted to be here and speak with everyone about kind of the great opportunities that come about for us because of the connection we have within a historical society, and then I can answer any questions after about what you want and anything nonprofit related if you're not in looking for this. So we can move on to the next slide. And some of the first things we're going to chat about, I guess we're going to go through the Blue Caps. I know I'm a little late, so we'll probably go through this quick. Is the Blue Caps were a team that formed in the late 1800s. The first game was seen in 1871. And since I know everybody out there, if they're playing this game, probably likes a little history, we're going to talk about that a little bit. So the Historical Society houses a ton of information about our team, and that's the reason why we can have the pictures that we're about to show now. So if you see there that the Blue Caps had this game against Eau Claire, which is a pretty big city near us, and we didn't hear about it again. We can't find any records until you move on to the next slide, and then you can kind of just keep pushing the slide button for about 4 or 5 slides. There'll be just pictures. The Menominee Blue Caps actually formed in 1882. We have some record in the local newspaper about it, so we really wanted to, and we started a vintage baseball team to recreate the team that was actually playing in Menominee and around the county. So in 1882, they played their first game, and in 1883 is kind of the first big season the Menominee Blue Caps were having. And they played all throughout the county. Our county at the largest point, about the 1920s, had about 16, 17 teams. So you can see photos here of Blue Caps at the local fairgrounds, and you can keep going with a couple more. But eventually the team played until about the 1940s. World War II, and with a lot of other baseball teams throughout the country, kind of made the Blue Caps no longer exist because people had to go fight the war or work or whatever. So when the Blue Caps folded in 1941, they eventually, once the war was over, reformed to be the Menominee Eagles. That team does still exist in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, so you can see kind of where the Blue Caps have come from, as you can see some of the old pictures and stuff, because I know everybody likes that if you're doing it. And so when we did this, the Dunn County Historical Society, and you can go to the next slide after this last Blue Caps game, the Dunn County Historical Society at the time, the education manager there, Matt Carter, who actually is with Dakota County in Minnesota right now trying to make some vintage baseball teams, he got a grant, a very large grant, to create a Playing Through African American Baseball exhibit. And with this grant in 2012 is when this happened, we decided to take the history of African American baseball in our county and create this museum exhibit. And I was working with them at the time at the museum, and so we had this money and we wanted to engage the community through baseball. And so when we put this exhibit up, we were doing some research and such, and throughout the research we found, and none of us had ever heard of 1860 baseball. So what we wanted to do was, we had leftover grant money, through that, we were like, well, let's start a team. Let's just at least play one game. And if you go to the next slide, you can see a picture of the first game. We were lucky enough, of course, to be close to Corky's team, which is the Rochester Roosters, and they came out and helped us, and they gave us some jerseys to wear. I was yet to be on the team at this point, and we played our first vintage baseball game. And one thing we realized was not only was it fun for everybody that was playing, we were playing near the museum, which brought more attention to the museum. It was a really good volunteer opportunity, and it was obviously fun. And so we pulled a pretty decent crowd for the first time event just to show off this game, and that's where we thought it would end. And so you can move on to the next slide. And we decided, okay, well, if we get a couple more people playing, maybe we can really play a game here. So Matt, the former captain, pitched the idea to the Historical Society of what would it be like if we just kept this team going? What collaboration can this team have if we become a part of the museum for outreach and such? So again, the Blue Caps are a group of guys who, vary in ages and stuff. We've never been a team that's out to be the number one team that plays baseball. We are out to promote the game, promote the museum, and have fun while we're doing it. So that's kind of the idea behind what we've done. And then you can move on to the next slide. So the big thing that first came out was because we had grant money left over, and the museum was very interested in using the museum or the Blue Caps to have events throughout the city and draw people to them. The museum actually was gracious enough to use some grant money and some of their own money to furnish our very first uniforms, which you'll see in a few pictures from now. And so what we did is we took inspiration from the Blue Cap in the 1800s and the early 1900s, and we kind of created our vintage baseball jerseys, much like everybody kind of else out there is. So you can see photos of the 83 team, the 1905 team, and what you see photos, we kind of took stuff from each one. And so we can move on. And so because we're in Northwest Wisconsin, we kind of have our own little pocket of teams up here. So we call it the Minnesota Area Baseball League because the Blue Caps and one other Wisconsin team are so far north that we play with that. And again, a lot of people know the Minnesota Union from playing around the country a lot. And, of course, the Roosters and, some of the other teams that play around here. So you can kind of see who we play. So if we keep going, we can look at some of the Blue Caps' first games, and we just wanted to show off, we can go through a couple of these really quick, that in this first season, right away in 2013, we were like, well, let's play 6-7 dates and see how we can do it. And we really tried to, being a new team, we could draw teams to us because they just wanted to play the new squad. So we really just wanted to have some fun and see how many people we could draw. And we learned that through the museum's help of promotion, newsletters, membership, along with our own promotion of being kitschy like vintage baseball is, we could host games right in town in Menominee. This is our second field because we went through 3 fields pretty quick. And we were polling about 75 people, 100 people to games. So we realized that this is actually probably a popular event. So the museum decided to put more funds towards us and realized that if pretty much we scratch your back, you can scratch ours. So again, we keep it very family friendly. We just want to play baseball and have some fun. And again, our hashtag is keeping vintage fun because that's all we want to do when we play. We can go through these next couple pretty quick. It's just a few quotes of what it's like to watch and play with the Blue Caps and such. And I'm sure all of you have the exact same feelings when you play vintage baseball out there. So you can see those quick. And then I'll kind of roll into what helps the museum in this, in us playing baseball for them and being technically volunteers, for the Historical Society. One of the things will come up here is a slide of our umpires. The great thing about it is the people who come out, including umpires, baseball players, and anything else, they're all technically volunteers at the museum. We are lucky enough to have our insurance carried by our museum. I know it's really, really tough to find out there, but that we fall under the guise of that. So when we do festivals and such, we wrap up a ton of volunteer hours for the local Historical Society, and that helps them with grant writing and some other future stuff that they need to, publicize that they do. So it really bolsters their volunteer base. And you can go to the next slide. And through this, the Blue Caps have really tried to ingrain ourselves into the community. When we go out and do things in the community, we always fly the Historical Society banner with us. So not only are we 1860 vintage baseball, but we're also trying to draw attention to the museum as much as we can. If anybody out there is historian or knows nonprofits and small museums, it can be really hard, especially in 2020, to get people to museums right now. So we always try to be as involved in the community as we can. Again, it does help to have the connection with the Historical Society, but we attend festivals. We try to play local games. We do training camps for kids every year. We give presentations at the schools, at Rotaries. We do the run and walks as long as we're in our uniform, and we do all these other celebrations too. So if you get to the next slide, this is where I break down kind of what does the museum provide for us, and what do we provide the museum in that kind of scratch your back type thing that we have going on. So we're on our 9th season. And it took us until the last 2 years to get our own budget line. So with the Historical Society, the Menominee Blue Caps are actually a budget line in their yearly budget, which is great. With that budget line, we can purchase equipment, we can purchase publicity and marketing. We also purchase merchandise that the museum can then sell. And we obviously have the ability to go with the museum. They give us historical artifacts. We do posters and printing through them, and we can present those at the games. This, again, brings us volunteers, and it's a great tax write-off for sponsors and anybody that wants to donate to our team, which is great. The other thing is the Blue Caps provide them events, entertainment. We are in their event schedule every single year. We help fundraising, so when our fundraising happens, when we do our 1 or 2 big festivals every single year, we try to make a couple $1,000s at them. To us, it's more than baseball. It's about having fun and bringing all these people to the local park. And so all the money actually goes back to the museum, and they just put it back in our budget line. And so the museum makes money, and so do we as we use our funds. Helps with awareness. We get new volunteers, and it's a great option for people. Something fun and different to do with history. So that's really what kind of gets us going. So you can skip the next couple slides rather quickly. So this is some of the things that come out of being connected to the Historical Society. The first one you'll see is that's our first official game in our first full season. And then we played the Rochester Roosters, and that's when we became members of the Vintage Baseball Association. Again, thanks to Corky and everybody there, and everybody in VBBA for accepting us and getting us involved. But a first big thing that we were able to do, and this is what really helped the Blue Caps get off the ground quick, is in our first full season, we figured out our local news station does a charity softball event every single year. And with that charity softball event, we said, why can't it be us? And they loved the idea of playing vintage baseball. And that one slide, you can actually see our umpire putting his coat over one of the anchors. And in this event, the news gave us great publicity, and we drew about 500-600 people to it. And we've been able to ride that wave even almost ever since because of the connection we had to the Historical Society, because it had to benefit a nonprofit. So again, we play in the county because we're a county-led team. Even though we're formed in Menominee, it's really the only big city in the county. So you can kind of go through the next couple slides. You can see we formed a team and played them in Colfax, which is a small town. The slide right after is us playing the local police department as a fundraiser game. We try to play the police department maybe once or twice a year. For some odd reason, they're pretty good at baseball, so they usually beat us, but it's great because it helps the hometown. And then once we get going, too, we actually got invited to 125th anniversary celebration for a really small town. And with that, it drew 300 people, and we actually created a team in Northwest Wisconsin out of it known as the Sand Creek Nine. And some of the other things we play is little festivals. I'm sure a lot of teams do these things, but we just felt the doors open a lot easier when we can say that it helps the Historical Society, too. So, yeah, you can see us and Sand Creek playing in Dallas for an Oktoberfest to celebrate a brewery. The other thing the museum was gracious enough to do is we wanted to keep drawing people. Of course, every year we needed to do something different. We created a female team known as the Blue Bonnet, and with our connection, we used our budget line and the volunteers at the Historical Society, and they actually created and hand-knit and hand-sewed all of the uniforms for our ladies team, which is just absolutely spectacular for us. And then again, being associated with a nonprofit, we do a really great job of soliciting sponsors and items for us to either raffle off or put in a silent auction. Again, it's a nonprofit, it's a tax write-off for most people. So again, we get twin tickets and such, and we try to make money throughout the year, trying to raffle them off. And then when we get to our festival, you can see a picture of, when we get to that slide, of all of our sponsors. We put it on a big banner. We have a local beer distributor in town that will actually print the banner up. If not, we have a person on the team that also owns a small business, and he can print it. He can use it as a tax write-off. So when we do these festivals, the whole thing is to bring as many people together, enjoy vintage baseball, enjoy the museum, hopefully come to the museum at some point, and bring awareness to the County Historical Society. With that, we also play a yearly winter match. That's right next to the museum because it's winter and nobody's using the baseball diamonds near there. So that's the museum's event, actually, and we volunteer our time to play. It's Northwest Wisconsin, so when you play baseball in February, it's really, really easy to know that there's going to be snow there. So we always draw some people to that to watch a bunch of people play in like 0-degree weather, which is just great. One of the last few things I can say is the collaborations that we get. Again, a lot of it goes back to the nonprofit tax write-off. Is we have collaborations with, like, one is a local brewery known as Brewing-Onic. They actually have the last 3 years brewed a Menominee Blue Caps beer for us, which is a pre-prohibition ale, and they're gracious enough to donate a part of the profits from that to our team that goes right into our fund. We work with a local band that draws hundreds of people downtown once a week. We try to, get out there. We work with our local theater, and we just do a lot of county-wide organization stuff. We do, anything to raise a little bit of money. So our players, up until this point, our players have never had to spend a dime on anything if they don't need to. Jerseys are free, hats are free, and unless they want their own baseball bat. That's just how it is. And as we get to the end here, so I don't go long since I jumped on a little early, the other thing we really have had lucky breaks with, again, reaching out to the museum about possible local TV broadcasting, is in the last 2 years we were featured on not only Wisconsin Life, but the most popular show on PBS locally is Around the Corner with John McGivern. And if you YouTube the Menominee episodes, there's a little 2-3 minute clip, which you can see at the bottom of the slide with me with the host of John McGivern. And those are all things when people are, like with PBS, are searching for places in the city to be able to shoot, they always call the museum, hopefully call the museum, and they'll let them know that they have this vintage baseball team. And, it helps us out a lot. And with the last kind of slide here, we were actually able to host this great conference a couple of years ago, and there's a great picture of everybody playing in the snow. And again, we, at that conference, we made it extremely affordable and cheap. We knew we were really far away, but the museum pretty much donated the Historical Society space for us to be able to host half the conference for free because of the connection we have. So I know I jumped on a little late, so I don't want to talk. I only have 5 minutes left. So if anybody has any questions or anything that I can kind of help people with, I can do that.
Go ahead,
Dustyn,
callers.
Corky, can you hear me?
Sure. Hey, Corky.
Dustyn? Hi. Say, on an earlier slide, you mentioned you guys have a budget line item, and you also do fundraising through the History Center. On that budget line item, do they provide you any money outside of what you guys fundraise, or is it purely what you bring in?
Great question. So we never had a line item. It was always kind of whatever we brought in. We never spend how much we bring in. We have not redone our jerseys. We've had the same jerseys for 10 years. I'm sure everybody out there knows that once your team starts playing a little while, everybody likes to buy their own bat. So when it comes to our line item, really the biggest thing is maybe spending our money on merchandise and such. But as of right now, we try to stick under the line item. Our current line item, we get $2,000, and we usually at least try to make that back, and any extra money outside of that $2,000 will go directly to the museum, if that answers your question.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And thanks for doing this.
Yep. Yeah. No, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, are you on delay?
Yeah, I think I'm a little delayed yet.
Yeah, I just heard the other question. Okay, so my name is Scoop. I'm with the Monmouth Furnace at the New Jersey Shore. We're in the Mid-Atlantic Vintage Baseball Association, and I wanted to ask your presenter if, since they're involved with the Historical Society, whether the Historical Society gives them a spot on their board of directors, and if that's kind of what helps them be able to get, the benefits of being under the umbrella of the Historical Society.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It has kind of came to that, but it wasn't originally. I was an employee of the Historical Society for a couple of years. I had since left about 3 years ago, and when that happened, we still were under the guise of the Historical Society, and they were still continuing all support. Support never wavered when we did not have an employee or a board member attached to the museum. But currently, it does help probably that I am currently the board president there, but I've only been the board president in the last year, and actually, I've actually pulled back on the Blue Caps because of that fact, because I don't want it to seem like too bit of a conflict of interest. But no, as we've had standing so far in the conversations we have had, especially the 2 years when there was no official connection, no, the conversation's always been that as long as it is beneficial to both parties involved, that it will continue. But of course, like anything, time, if people left and 5 years from now everybody was different, you never know what can change and such. But as of now, the museum sees a great benefit of us, and we're usually we hold usually the second largest event that the museum does every year, so I don't see them passing that up.
Okay.
If that answers your question, hopefully.
It does. Thank you very much, and good luck, and hopefully we all get out there and play pretty soon, because I know at least my guys are getting antsy, so.
Great, thank you. Yeah, hopefully we'll see you come up north one time.
Okay, take care. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
All right, it looks like that's it for our callers. So,
Okay, Kelly, I'm on the line.
all right, so we're gonna move on to Bruce.
And then the next one up on the alphabetical list is Bruce Allardyce. Now, I got to see Bruce Allardyce speak at a combined Sabre meeting of the Wisconsin and the Chicago Sabre groups. Mm-hmm. And it turns out he's a professor of history.
Hello, Kelly?
And he's published a variety of things. And his focus is going to be on baseball and the Civil War. Okay. And I thought, we as players, we focus on the game and how we play the game, and are we following the rules and historically accurate. And I thought, we always hear about the fact that the soldiers during the Civil War played the game. And I'm hoping that he'll be able to provide some stories that'll kind of fill in the images that we have of what was going on in the Civil War and how baseball was a part of the culture of the soldiers during that time, on both the North and the South.
Mm-hmm. And Bruce, you can go ahead. Bruce, you can go ahead and present. Bruce, can you hear me? You can go ahead.
Okay, I can hear you.
Yeah, you can go ahead and present, Bruce.
Am I showing up on?
Yes.
Excuse me?
Yes, you are.
Is my face showing up?
No.
Okay. Hi.
My name is Bruce Allardyce. I'm a professor of history in the Chicago area. I'm active in the SAPE organization, specializing in writing about early baseball and also about the Black Sox scandal. But today I'm going to be talking about baseball in the Civil War era. It's an interesting topic. Baseball had just become the national pastime by 1861. Baseball was in fact first named the national pastime in 1856, and by 1861 it had surpassed cricket and other sports as the go-to sport for Americans. And baseball has been a part of American history. The game has always been present during times of crisis to bring Americans together. Baseball was played during the Civil War, as we'll see in a second. It was played during World War I, World War II. It was played during the epidemic of 1918, Spanish flu epidemic. What we're experiencing right now is actually the first time, really, that we've had a significant stoppage of baseball in this country because of a national crisis. Next slide, please. Well, hopefully this audience doesn't have to be told about General Abner Doubleday. He was a very distinguished Civil War general, but he did not invent baseball and, in fact, had nothing to do with baseball. His extensive writings never mentioned any connection with the game of baseball. And he's only reputed to be part of baseball because in 1908, the National League decided to investigate the origins of baseball and was given a prompt by a correspondent saying Abner Doubleday had in fact invented baseball in 1839 in Cooperstown. They went in good faith with that and proclaimed that the beginnings of baseball. And it didn't come out until later that the correspondent really did not know what he was talking about. Strangely, he's known for that, yet his very distinguished Civil War service is not known, not remembered today. Next slide. Next slide, please. Next slide. On ahead here. Quote from the 1858 Cleveland newspaper captured the era's craze for baseball. Quote, never within the memory of that venerable old fogey, the oldest inhabitant, has the baseball epidemic raged so fiercely as it has present. Fields, open lots, streets, alleys, and yards. Everywhere can be found boys and men with a ball and a bat, working at play as earnestly as if they were the great business of the day. All ages and classes have found the